Hello, I'm back. Also, it is currently like midnight as I'm filming this, so if I look and sound more tired, that's probably why. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. As you can tell, I am in a different location, and that is because I'm officially home from college. So I am in my room at home. Hey, you can kind of see some of the stuff that I have on my walls in my dorm still now that I put up. But yeah, I just got like so busy with dealing with the end of the semester and finals and stuff like that. And so I had to put this whole thing on a bit of a pause. But now it is now summer, and so I hope that now, because it is summer, I will be able to focus a lot more on this channel and doing content, not just here on YouTube, but also on TikTok and Instagram as well. So get ready for a summer of content, hopefully. We'll see how this goes. Anyways, today's video is going to be my review of season 7. I almost forgot what season it was. My review of season 7 of The Rookie. If you don't know the show The Rookie, is a really amazing show. It is starring Nathan Fillion, and essentially the concept is that Nathan Fillion plays this guy who, essentially goes through a sort of midlife crisis and ends up becoming a cop, and it's like his kind of story of being a rookie, like a rookie cop, and at age 40 or whatever. And I really love the show. This was a show that me and my dad actually watched together last summer. We basically spent the entire summer watching through all of the first 6 seasons, and now I have been watching season 7 as it has come out this year, and it is now concluded, so that I would do a review of it. So let's just get started. I'm gonna start with the positives. Overall, I actually really ended up enjoying the season. One thing I feel like I can always count on with The Rookie is its comedy. I get at its heart, it's supposed to be a this cop filled drama sort of thing, but it also has really good comedy. Like, for example, also this is going to be spoilers, so if you are a fan of The Rookie and you haven't seen season 7 yet, there will be spoilers in this video, so yeah. But anyways, back to the comedy. I feel like there are a lot of really good comedic moments in this show, and particularly this season. The April Fool's episode for me is one that stands out a lot. If you know, I just think the whole first of all, the whole purge thing in that episode was so ridiculous. But I get it's an April Fool's episode, so it's you kind of just have to accept that that's what the ridiculousness of an April Fool's episode would be. Yeah, and then also whole Tim and Lucy's whole prank on Gray, with them making it seem like they got back together for the prank, and then the ending with Gray faking the was that a heart attack, I think? Yeah. That was hilarious. So yeah. Another positive of this season, I thought it stayed mostly grounded. Or it felt a more like grounded season, and it kind of like in that way like took me back to like the earlier seasons, because I think that is something that I personally really enjoyed about the first like 3 seasons of The Rookie, was that it didn't like, it wasn't like Criminal Minds or any of these like shows where it was like, either focused on like drama or like relationships and all this stuff. It like, just focus on like what the day-to-day like life was with being a cop, and more specifically like what it's like to be a rookie. And I feel like this, and especially a lot of like the stuff that they dealt with in this season, was a lot, especially like in the middle, just like felt like a lot more grounded and a lot more like what I loved about the beginning seasons of the show. So I did really like that. In terms of a lot of the obviously I love the characters in the show. But the 2 characters that really stood out to me in this season, I loved seeing Selena become a P2. Sort of like one of my complaints for these like later seasons of the rookie is that like as we introduce like the new rookies like Aaron and like Selena, we really didn't get to see much of like what their training process was like, as opposed to like Nolan and Lucy and Jackson in the beginning. But I feel like with Selena, because of the fact that not only was she a new rookie, but she was also Nolan, who we have also seen as a rookie. This was his first rookie that he's being trained now that he's a training officer. So I loved like seeing her evolve and her finally becoming a P2 this season. And that one episode, or like that one episode where it's like her first like, like shift, like a solo, and she just like comes back and like arresting all these people, and you see Gray go, "Oh, you're not trying to show off, are you?" or something like that. I just love seeing that, because Selena is honestly one of my, out of all the characters that we get like introduced to in like the later seasons, Selena is probably my favorite, just because she's just so amazing. And I feel like it also shows like how much Nolan has evolved as a TO, and like how he like is capable of training a really excellent rookie like Selena is. So yeah. And I guess now we will get into the new characters that we were introduced to this season, that being Miles, aka Texas, and Seth Ridley. And Miles, starting with Miles, because I have some stuff to say about Seth. But in terms of Miles, I loved his development this season. I loved seeing this guy who is, was this cop who was, previously this cop from Texas who has, come to LA. He's, this previous is an ex, star football player, who is, kind of not ready to let that go, and also in like, he's like you first meet him, and he's kind of like, he just like kind of seems like this cocky guy who's like, oh, I'm not really a rookie. I've, like been a cop for, however this long in Texas. But then we kind of learn more about him, and then we you know, we realize that he's actually homeless and living out of his car, and you know, hasn't told that to his girlfriend who's still living back home, and stuff like that. And the episode where, and then we also see like just like his development of sort of becoming a better person and moving away from his life in Texas that he had before, which you can tell he's still like not like ready to give up, but he knows that in order to but then he realizes that like he loves being a cop, and so in order to be the best cop that he can be, he needs to kind of let more things go. And you see that with him breaking up with his old girlfriend. There's an episode where he gets like sued or something, and then it needs to come up with like 10 grand, so he sells his football championship ring. There's the episode where he goes to the party and, you know, meets up with one of his, you know, old, I think it's like one of his old like high school teammates who did end up making it to the NFL, and seeing this like rich life that he realizes that he doesn't that he thought he wanted, but he doesn't really like. And so I really like Miles's character, and I loved seeing just the development that he has just this one season, and I really hope that we can continue to see his character grow next season, which he was promoted to a series regular for next season. So I hope that means we're getting a lot more of him, because I do really love him. Now let's get into Seth Ridley. I kind of just put this in kind of the middle, because I feel like Seth's character really isn't a positive or a negative for me. I just kind of want to spend a bit of time talking about him, because I feel like his character has been a big point of conversation is when it's come to this season, as from what I've seen on like TikTok and stuff like that. And I just want to say right now, this may be a hot take, but I don't think I necessarily hate him as much as I've seen a lot of people do. Don't get me wrong, I think that a lot of the stuff that he did was wrong. Obviously you shouldn't lie about your cancer coming back just because you want an excuse as to, you know, why you keep messing up and stuff like that. Obviously that was a shitty thing to do, obviously. But to but I personally don't think that he means to be a bad person. And I think deep down he's not a bad person. I think he's just a guy who has, obviously we don't really know exactly what it is, but he's obviously gone through some trauma to make it so that he just keeps lying about things, and that has just escalated to the point where, you know, he's lying to cover himself up, and, you know, wants to, and, you know, makes it, you know, wants to be seem like he has a permanent excuse for why he keeps, you know, messing things up. And so then he ends up, you know, lying about his cancer coming back. I think he's just a guy who is not necessarily meaning to do bad things. He just does, he just doesn't know exactly what the right thing to do, and obviously he's had other experiences as to where lying has worked for him, so he just keeps doing that, and that has just escalated. And so I think that's just the type of character that he is. And also I just want to say right now, I never believed that, you know, he was gonna be this, you know, serial killer. And like also like, so like if you didn't see, like there was like a bunch of stuff all over TikTok that like, and like once people were like, you know, like noticing that he was like lying all the time and stuff like that, like there were people who thought that, you know, he was gonna, you know, end up being related to like Rosalind or be working with Monica or like one of the like other like big villains like within the show. um and and he's like really like, you know, undercover for them, and like he's really like this like serial killer. And I never believed that, and I don't think they're gonna make him that way, especially the way his story kind of ended this season. And you know, as much as like there may be people out there that don't necessarily want him to come back next season, I kind of hope he doesn't necessarily have to like come back and be like a regular character, or at least like be a cop, because I kind of don't really, because since he did, you know, end up losing his leg and all that stuff, like I don't really see them like bringing him back as like an actual like cop and like an actual like main you know, like main character. But like, but I feel like you had him like go at least go through like some sort of a development like towards the end of this season. And so it's kind of like if you just had him like have this development and then just like write him off of the show, like to me that kind of doesn't really make any sense. And like to like at least like like bring him back and to like have like Miles or Nolan or somebody like go and like meet up with him and like see how he's doing, and like, you know, maybe we could get like an update, like, you know, he's going to therapy trying to like work out his issues, like something like that. Like you shouldn't like I don't think that they should just completely disregard him whatsoever. And you know, as much as there are people out there that probably hate him and, you know, don't want him to ever come back to the show, I just think that would be kind of pointless because of the fact that they did sort of redeem him by the end. So, yeah. So, those are my thoughts on Seth. Yeah. So getting into my negatives, I kind of thought there was just like sort of just so many different storylines going on, and I get that it's like sort of supposed to be that way because like a lot of the storylines that go on are not like overarching things. They're like, you know, things that, you know, start and then get solved in one episode. Like I get that's kind of like what the show is supposed to be. But I feel like I think they try to do too many like overarching storylines. Like, and I feel like they wanted to do all these things and then they started a lot of them, but then kind of just like teetered off on them again, you know? Like obviously we had the thing with Jason at the beginning, and then he ends up getting killed by the hitman. So then that solves that from the end of season 6. So that sort of gets solved. That's fine. There was the whole thing with Nyla and James and them, you know, wanting to start this whole, you know, new organization thing. And then like that kind of lasted for a while, and then they kind of like brought up in like an episode that like, oh, they're struggling to like get people to join. And then that was kind of never brought up again. We had the whole like I can't remember the guy's name, but like the serial killer that like Nyla was dealing with. Like I guess like that was like kind of solved, I guess. And then obviously we had the whole, we were bringing in 2 new characters. There was, dealing with Selena coming in, or not Selena coming in, but like Selena finishing her training. And, the whole thing with Nyla and James. There really wasn't a lot going on with Angela and Wesley. And then obviously all the stuff with Lucy and Tim, and the potential for them getting back together, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I think they just like, they were dealing with I think they tried to like start like so much this season that like kind of like stuff was like went on for a while, and then kind of just like stopped, and then we like never really got an update on it. So that was a bit of a negative for me. And kind of like going on to that, I kind of didn't like how they brought in like, or like they literally like did not even mention Oscar until the finale. Because like because I remember like at the end of season 6, the main threat was that Jason and Oscar escaped from prison. And like obviously we got Jason dealt with at the beginning of at the beginning of this season, but then Oscar was literally never brought up again, and then until all of a sudden we get to the finale, and then we find out that, this whole time Nolan has been, like tracking all these things and trying to figure out where Oscar is, and obviously he's still, they don't even catch him again. He just escapes again. And so it's kind of just like, I wish they kind of either had like actually ended up capturing Oscar again, or had like, moments like across the season of like Nolan like worrying and trying to figure this stuff out, because they totally had that like just like completely off screen, and like didn't even mention until the finale. So like, and I get that like Oscar really realistically really isn't that big of a threat. I get that because it's Oscar. But still, like, to like sort of set him up as like, this like big bad, or not big bad, but like to like set him up as like the main threat to this season at the end of last season, and then or part of the main threat from last season, and then have one half of your main threat dealt with, and then the second half not even brought up until the very end. That kind of bothered me. Let's get into Lucy and Tim, shall we? Because I feel like my opinions on this might have some people come after me. But I think the main thing that bothered me the most, and like let me just preface this by saying, I do like Lucy and Tim together. I do like them together as a couple. Let me just preface all of this by just saying that I do like them together. Okay? But I just kind of think that and also I love Lucy being a sergeant. I love like the concept of like Lucy becoming a sergeant, and like the fact that, Lucy is like finally like actually, become like promoted and has this like new or bigger role. I do like that. It's just that it just bothers me that there was so much setup in the previous seasons for, her to become this like, either in like, obviously like we saw her, like not do well in the detective's exam, but like we're like but then I was like, okay, yeah, then she could probably take it again. And we had all this set up with her doing undercover stuff, and her even like mentioning that like that or I think she like mentions it somewhere that that's what she wants to do is like do like undercover stuff, and she even went through like all this like undercover training and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden she wants to be a sergeant, and it's just like, and they don't really give a whole lot of explanation as to why. Because like the only thing we get is it's like in that episode with the episode with the fire, and Tim and Lucy are laying in the hospital beds like after that fire happened, and then all of a sudden Lucy just goes, "Hey, I'm thinking about taking the sergeant exam." And like when that happened, I was like that just kind of came out of nowhere. And they don't really have like they don't really give like an explanation as to why Lucy all of a sudden wants to be a sergeant, and they kind of just like every time it gets brought up, they kind of just brush it off as like, oh, it's a good move for her career. And don't get me wrong, it probably is, but like they they could have had that like like in that moment in the hospital, they could have had a moment where like they still could have had like Lucy say, oh, like, or like have like Lucy tell Tim, hey, I've been thinking about taking the sergeant's exam, and then have, you know, Tim be like, wait, like what happened to, you know, undercover and all that stuff, and then they could have put in that, like they could have put an explanation in right there, like they could have they had it set up for them, they just didn't do it, and it kind of there, and like I don't want to upset the Chenford stands, but let me just say again, I do like them together. But it just they're making it seem like the only reason why they're making Lucy a sergeant is to make it so Lucy and Tim aren't like outranked, and so they can get back together. And I'm not, and that doesn't annoy me because I don't like them together. I do like them together. I just think that as a that in a writing perspective, like that's just to me like doing that is just like, that's just kind of like just bad writing in my opinion. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. And like I said, I do like them together. And like they even had them together when they were still, like when he still outranked her, they still had them be put together. And I don't even think that was the issue as to why they broke up anyway. So I don't know. I don't know. I just like, and they probably are gonna, you know, get back together, and I'll be happy if they do end up together, because like I said before, I do like them together. It's just like they could have given, just like if they just could have gotten it, this would have been all okay if they just gave a proper explanation as to why Lucy all of a sudden doesn't want to do like undercover stuff anymore. I don't know, but just like kind of this like last little thing in terms of like the documentary type episode this season. This one kind of like wasn't my favorite. It's not like sort of a big thing. It's just kind of like another thing where I was just kind of like, eh. I liked the whole like paranormal type thing, and to have like the guys from BuzzFeed Unsolved, I can't remember their names right now, but to have them on was kind of fun. But I just like having it be Abigail was kind of weird. And I feel like the only reason why they brought her back was just to kind of be like, hey, remember her, and also, hey, by the way, her and Nolan's son called off their engagement, which they did that in a weird way too. Like I kind of wish there were like it was like kind of another like, because they made it a big moment when like they like announced that they were engaged. And so like I feel like they should have done like this kind of the same thing for them, like for like them breaking off the engagement, but I don't know. That was just kind of a little thing, but yeah. But overall, I did very much enjoy this season. I would probably give it like overall like a 7 7.5 out of 10 maybe overall. So like overall, I pretty much enjoy an enjoyable season. But you know, there's just like some things that bother me personally, and it's just, again, it's just my opinion. So yeah, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I will, now that I'm more free, I'll be you know, there'll be a lot more content coming. So make sure to subscribe and follow me on TikTok and Instagram, to be on the lookout for more content. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.